Part 21. The Original Vampire. Author, Lugo Busrud. Chapter 202. Chapter 202. The giant palace stands in the northwest corner of Wangcheng, surrounded by lakes on all sides, and the palace is built on the island in the center of Bibo Lake. Bibo Lake is the most famous hot spring lake in the city of the Giant Devil. It is said that the reason why the Giant Devil Emperor set the new king city here is to see this rare hot spring. On the snowy ice field in the ice and snow, such a hot spring is simply a miracle. The giants naturally regarded it as the gift of the White Wolf war god, and specially built the palace in the center of Bibo Lake. The light of Chen 11 has not fully spilled all corners of the king's city, and the giant emperor Mo202 held a predecessor. The most diligent emperor in the history of the giant demon empire, every meeting is when it is bright. The minister of the giant can only endure. Unfortunately, despite the diligence of this Mo202, he still couldn't stop the David Empire from declining his hands. Sometimes, the fortune of the empire is really not the efforts of one or two people to reverse. The topic of the Qianqian conference was clear black cavalry. The giants have already woven a piece of luo.com, but they can't wait for the prey. Over time, the high-ranking giants are inevitable to start to be anxious. Moro too is over 50 years old, but his spirit is still very healthy, his body is tough, and he has a soldier style in the throne. In fact, the giant emperor did have joined the army and had also fought with the Jia of Geisha. Of course, it is not appropriate to say that it is not appropriate. It is more accurate that it has been taught by the Marquis of Garcia. However, there is nothing to be embarrassed. The generals who have not been taught by the Marquis of Garcia in the giant empire, can only say that he has no qualifications on the front line. Because of the psychological shadow of the Black Army, the giant emperor attached great importance to this murder. The Black Army was immortal for a day. Most of the giants and nobles also firmly believe that if the name of the Black Cavalry Army can become history this time, the revival of the giant empire may be just around the corner. There is a huge military map hanging in the government hall, which is expressed by black arrows on it. But this state has not been updated for more than 10 days. Why is the Black Cavalry staying in Fenglu Castle? Why don't you attack the giant devil city? Did they see through this strategy? Nympho. All kinds of thoughts turned in the minds of the giants and nobles, and the scene was a bit depressed for a while. Finally, the opening of Morido II broke this embarrassing silence. Is the Black Cavalry still not moved? The military minister's face was a little stiff, and he replied carefully, "Yes, His Majesty the sentinel on the front line still did not see them come out of the windrower." "Then why don't they dispatch?" The questioning of Morodo II made the military affairs minister a bit embarrassed. Among the 4 princes of the giant demon empire, the northern prince Ordo was injured in the duel with the Duke of St. Hilda. It is currently being recuperated in the north. The oriental Prince Abbas and western Prince Mervi. Prince Abbas is a personality of a middle-aged giant. He likes the culture, serving, etiquette of the human race, and of course there are people and beautiful women. If he didn't look at his slightly sloppy face in human eyes, Prince Abbas was no different from an elegant and decent human nobleman. This oriental prince is a firm talk among the demon empire. In his opinion, adhering to the enemy with the north is a very unwise behavior, only to live with the north peacefully and be friendly. Only to get the hope of revival. Last year, Prince Akamoto went to the Winter City to seek peace and marriage, and was greatly appreciated by Prince Abbas, thinking that this was the correct way to get along with the giant demon empire and the north. The western Prince Mervi, opposite him, was just the opposite. It was a firm main war. The Prince Mervi is burly, healthy, and dark green skin with thick hair, which looks like a green gorilla. As for his dress, it is difficult to say. The whole body is covered with all kinds of gems. At a glance, it really looks pearly, but it is too late. This dress exposes the extremely tacky taste of Prince Mervi. Prince Mervy has a pair of triangle eyes, and the fierce gaze in it seems to see that no one is pleasing to the eye, especially the Prince Abbas. In his opinion, the maiden-like Prince Abbas was the shame of the tribe of the trolls, let alone the other party's surrender tendency. It made Prince Mervy that he couldn't wait to cut the scum that betrayed his race. At this time, when I saw the eyes of the military minister's help, Prince Mervy said with a grin, "His Majesty, I don't think you need to worry about it. I am afraid that the Black Cavalry is waiting for the army to go south, so, what we have to do now is to wait patiently." As soon as the words fell, Prince Abbas shook his head with a sneer, as if hearing something stupid. Prince Mervy stared at his eyes and yelled, "Abbas, what do you laugh? Is there any problem with my words?" Prince Abbas took a step back, avoided the droplets spit out in the mouth of Prince Mervy, and said disgustedly, "Mervy, have you thought about your pig's head? We can only know that the Black Army has not marched north to the Windroar, but south of Fenglaubeo. Do you know what happened there?" Prince Mervy was suffocating, but soon yelled again, "What else can happen in the south?" Prince Abbas smiled contempt and said, "Calculating time, Akamoto also returned according to the plan you said. What would happen if the Black Army continued to stay at the Windroar?" Prince Mervy also frowned. "You mean, the Black Army is waiting for Akamoto's army to return, so, how can they know that Akamoto will return?" Prince Abbas laughed, "Do you think others are as stupid as you? I have strong opposition from the beginning, because once it is seen by the enemy, we will fall into an extremely passive situation. Now that the Black Cavalry has not continued to north, it is likely that they already know that the giant devil city is a trap. Hee, you think you want to seduce the enemy, but you don't expect the enemy to eat bait, but just don't step into your trap." Parleying, Prince Mervy blushed and wanted to refute, but could not find a reason for refutation for a while. Because at this time, most of the giants and nobles have begun to realize that the behavior of the Black Army is too suspicious. Perhaps the seducer really happened as Prince Abbas said. "These are just your guessing. What evidence do you have?" "Evidence to prove that the Black Army has seen through our trick." Prince Mervy was still trying to support it. Prince Abbas sneered twice, and seemed to be disdainful to explain to this reckless husband. "Abbas," Maroto too also spoke, and his voice looked extremely hoarse. But before the giant emperor continued to say, he saw a guard walk into the prosecutor's hall and reported loudly, "His Majesty, His Royal Highness Akamoto is asking outside the palace." "Akamoto? Why did he come back? What's wrong with the army going south? Did the Black Trojan really see through our strategy?" Nympho. For a while, the court's hall was chaotic. This chapter is finished. The Original Vampire. Author, Logo Busroot. Chapter 203. Chapter 203 Fixed, Part 1. When Prince Akamoto walked into the council hall, the audience was quiet. All the eyes are concentrated on Prince Akamoto, as if waiting for the trial of fate. Maroto too still maintains a straight sitting position, and the expression on his face is still indifferent, but if you pay attention to observation, you can see his trembling hands slightly. Obviously, the giant emperor is not as calm as he showed on the surface. Patiently waiting for Prince Akamoto's ceremony, Maroto too asked the doubts in his heart, "Akamoto, how can you come back at this time, your army?" Hearing this, Prince Akamoto fell to the ground and said sadly, "Your Majesty, I live up to your trust. The Black Army has already seen our strategy, and the 100,000 army south has, the whole army has been covered." "What?" Mo too shocked. He could no longer maintain the grace and demeanor of an emperor, and immediately jumped from the throne and yelled, "You stupid, what is going on? My 100,000 army, how long is this? How could it be that the whole army was overwhelmed? And what do you say? What is the meaning of the Black Army that has broken our strategy? How could they know it? Is anyone leaked? Say. Prince Akamoto was on the ground and talked about the previous battle, and then immediately shoved the pot. Her Majesty, this is because Charles has betrayed us, he has revealed our plans to Colin, so the Black Army knows that the city of the Giant Devil is a trap. Because Colin Angle also learned that I had only one empty shell, that I was led by the South of the South, and then waited for us to ambush it. Fart, Prince Murphy rolled up Prince Akamoto on the ground and roared, "What empty shells? You have 100,000 troops under your men, among them, there are 30,000 elite, and even 3,000 wolves ride. You tell me, but how can the 10,000 people's Black Army be destroyed in such a short period of time?" "Okay," Prince Abbas said suddenly, "when encountering the black troops in the open field, even if the troops are dominant, who dares to say that they can retreat? Murphy, do you dare?" The blue tendon jumped on the forehead of Prince Mirway, which seemed to be questioned by the questioning of Prince Abbas. Prince, still because of shame. "Abbas, do you want to get rid of a defeat?" "I didn't mean to get rid of Akamoto, I just wanted to remind you that this time the defeat was not just Akamoto's responsibility. I reminded you at the beginning that although Charles had resentment about his father's heart, he may not be willing really do things for us. Look, it's really a problem now." Ahem. At this time, Mo Duo's face could not be hung up, because Prince Abbas also embarrassed him. After all, he was also in favor of the seduce of the enemy proposed by Mr. Yan, but he just thought that not only did he not be able to seduce the Black Army to attack the Tiantu King City, but he buried the army. When you are not held accountable, how can you deal with the Black Clanging Army in the Wind Roar? Faced with the problem of Maroto II, Prince Abbas immediately said loudly, "Your Majesty, I still insist on my previous point of view. Negotiation." "Discuss and fart," Prince Mirwev yelled again. "Abbas, the defeat of your Giant Devil, thought about discussing with the northern border all day, but you don't want to think about how human beings can do it with the giant magic and peaceful coexistence." "Why not? Goblin is fine, dwarves can, and half-elves can, why can't we giant? The races you are talking about are weak enough, so humans can tolerate them." "Oh, Murphy, have you forgotten, I just reached a peace agreement with the Duke of St. Hills not long ago." Hepping agreement, Prince Murphy's vomiting was almost sprayed on the face of Prince Abbas. "That is just the Duke of St. Hilda needs to have time to resolve the internal contradictions. He freely let us go. You have no factual speculation." "Okay," Moto II once again interrupted the quarrel between the two princes. "Murphy, since you don't agree with the discussion, what should you say?" "His Majesty, we don't need to do anything now, the Black Cavalry will naturally leave," Prince Muravi said confidently. "Now that the plan is leaked, of course, the Black Cavalry also knows that there are still 50,000 elite army in Wangcheng. Therefore, as long as Colin Angle is still a bit rational, it is impossible to drive valuable cavalry to attack the city. Therefore, he will definitely retire next. Don't forget that the north is now a pot of porridge, and Colin Angle cannot stay in Fengla Castle for a long time." Prince Abbas sneered and asked, "What if the Black Army came to the Empire to sweep the inside of the Empire before withdrawing the north?" Prince Murphy heard that. When he heard his words, he was obviously asked. Now the last elite army of the Giant Demon Empire is concentrated in the Giant Devil City. If the Black Army sweeps around the King Cheng and destructs it as much as possible, it will really make the Devil Empire helpless and heartbroken. Just as a lot of monster nobles fell into thought, Prince Akamoto, who was kneeling on the ground, suddenly spoke again. "His Majesty, in fact, I am back to the Viscount Angeli this time, let me send you a post." "Worship," Mo Duo II was surprised, "do you mean, Colin Angle wants to see me?" "Yes." Prince Akamoto took a handwriting from his arms and presented to Mo Duo II. After scanning it in a hurry, Mo Duo II raised his head again, watching a lot of monster nobles who were curious, and said, "This Colin Angle wants to ask me to meet outside Wangcheng and discuss peace talks. Prince Mervy yelled immediately, "Your Majesty, this must be a trap, you must not be fooled." Prince Abbas said calmly, "His Majesty, maybe the Viscount Angeli really wants to talk about peace, don't you miss such a good opportunity." "Fart," Prince Mervy yelled again, "Abbas, your heart-intended guy, he even wanted to make His Majesty out of the city to meet the enemy. What happened in case of what happened?" "Don't worry about this." Mode 2 raised the sheepskin rolling in his hand, explaining, "The Viscount Angeli will set the place where the meeting is 5 kilometers outside the city, and he also promises that the Black Trojan will stay in 10 kilometers away. In addition, the two sides only allow a guard to go to the meeting place." When Prince Mervy heard the proposal, he frowned and thought about it, but he did not refute any more. Just when Mo202 was about to promise this proposal, Prince Akamoto spoke again, "Your Majesty, I think this may be an excellent opportunity for us." "What opportunities?" Mo202 frowned. He didn't want to ignore the defeated general who had just buried the 100,000 troops, but he heard the word of the opportunity, but he came with some interest. Prince Akamoto raised his head, and the flames of revenge flashed in his eyes, sinking. "Your Majesty, we can take this opportunity to kill Colin Angle." This chapter is finished. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Original Vampire. Author, Logo Busroot. Chapter 204. Chapter 204 Fixed, Part 2. With Prince Akamoto's low and firm words echoing in the court's hall, the monster nobles of the public have a moment of stun. The eyes of Maroto too became a line, with shocking light in his eyes. He stared at Prince Akamoto, who was kneeling on the ground, and asked slowly and lowly, "How to kill?" Prince Akamoto's face suddenly appeared a touch of joy that was difficult to conceal, and said urgently, "Her Majesty, the Viscount Angle clear broke our strategy this time and destroyed the 100,000 troops. Such war skills have been enough to make him a rising star after the Marquis in the north. But he must also be clear that the giant devil city cannot be overcome. This time, inviting you to see each other to meet, I am afraid that it is because of the youthful mind, and you want to show off in front of your Majesty. However, when the Viscount Angeli was proud, he forgot his biggest weakness." "What weaknesses?" Mo202 had come to Prince Akamoto, leaned slightly, and his expression was eager. Prince Akamoto's eyes became sharp instantly, and said coldly, "Lack of high-level combat power in his hands." "High-level combat power?" "Yes, Your Majesty," Prince Akamoto continued, "I have already touched the Black Army. This is an extremely terrible army, but it is terrible, lies in extremely high combat literacy, extremely excellent weapons and equipment, and extremely terrible fighting will. Of course, there is also an excellent commander. There is no need to say more about the Marquis of Garcia, and now Colin Angra has also showed no inferior command. However, the Black Army has a defect: there are not many high-level professional." The giants and nobles in the hall couldn't help nodding when they heard it, and agreed. They are of course no stranger to the Black Army. It is also understood that the role of high-ranking professionals in the real battlefield is actually not much. Unless it is the point of the sanctuary strong, the general Fifth Order, or even the Sixth Order professionals dare not face the charge of thousands of elite Iron Riders. Therefore, although the Black Cavalry does not have many high-level professionals, it will still not affect the nightmare of becoming a lingering heart of the giant monster nobles. Prince Akamoto's narrative is still continuing. According to the previous information, there are no Sixth Order professional in the Black Cavaliers, and there are 2 Fifth Order Knights, but in the first battle of the Shadow Canyon, a Fifth Order Knight died, and in addition one, that is, Marquis in Garcia himself, was captured by the East. Therefore, there was no Fifth Order professional among the Black Army residues taken over by Angle. In addition, I have also explored that the Angle family was just a barren family before, with shallow heritage, and the family knights were only third order. Only Angelin himself showed the strength of the fourth order in Union City. Hearing this, Mo Duo has understood the meaning of Prince Akamato. You mean, this time you meet, the guard around Colin cannot be a professional who is more than fourth or higher. Moro too did not doubt the accuracy of Prince Akamato's intelligence. Because the high-level professionals above the fifth level are famous people with surnames, it is not difficult to investigate their situation. It is impossible to say a hidden master from which a horn in the corner. That's right, Prince Akamato's eyes flickered with a sharp murder. Therefore, as long as you bring a samurai of more than 5 or more, you can use the chance of meeting Colin Angle. No, Prince Abbas immediately stopped. Why not? Prince Murphy saw the old opposition and didn't want to think about it. Prince Abbas looked at Moto too solemnly and persuaded, His Majesty, this time the voice of Angle Line posted a post, and asked you to meet with you in front of the two armies as a formal identity. You can reject it directly. But if he agreed to see his consequences, but suddenly killed the killer, the reputation of the giant empire would be completely destroyed. Moruoi's face suddenly gloomy, and he didn't speak for a long time, but his eyes were uncertain, and he obviously struggled in his heart. Prince Murphy hesitated when he saw Marauder too, and shouted loudly, Now the giant demon empire has reached this point, and talk about the reputation of shit, if you say, you should take this opportunity to slaughter that Colin directly. Angle. Prince Abbas sneered, Murphy, have you had a mind in speaking, for a Colin Angra, is it completely discarded the reputation and face of the empire, is it worth it? Maroto too was silent. Your Majesty, Prince Akamato couldn't help screaming at this time. Please let me escort you to this meeting at that time, I will kill Colin Angle by myself. And if you declare that I can't stand the previous defeat, you will kill it. It is a personal behavior and has nothing to do with the empire. Afterwards, you can even deprive my throne in order to compensate the North and draw the line with me, so that you can keep the reputation and face of the empire. I know myself is unforgivable, so please give me a chance to atonement. I am willing to be a sharp blade in your hand, stabbing any enemy, even if the pink body is broken, it is not expected. Mo Duoi's eyes moved slightly, and it seemed to be moved by Prince Akamato's imposition. But he still did not agree immediately. Seeing this, Prince Murphy snorted, and said, Akamato, you're just a third-order warrior, how did you assassinate Colin Angra, how can you bear the heavy responsibility of guarding His Majesty? His words were very polite, but the eyes of Prince Akamato had softened a lot, and he was probably shaken by the opponent's behavior. Then, Prince Murphy turned to Morodo too, solemnly, and said, Your Majesty, please allow me to escort you to participate in this meeting. Obviously, this Western prince is going to sacrifice himself and complete the assassination of Colin Angle. Mo Duoi's eyes flickered, and Shen Sheng asked, Prince Murphy, is it worth it for a Colin Angle? Prince Murphy stuck his chest with his left hand and bowed slightly, Your Majesty, it is not worth it, it is your decision and I will only follow your will. Mo Duo too was silent again. Seeing this, Prince Akamato said again, Your Majesty, I think it is worth it. Although the current Black Army is impossible to overcome the King City, they can still burn and loot in the Empire, bringing a deep blow to the Empire. The army in the King City cannot prevent those cavalry army who come and go. Moreover, the military talent currently showed by Colin Angle, if it gives him another 3 or 5 years of development, I am afraid it will be another Marquis of Garcia. If you do take it out of this opportunity, the future of the empire may be dull. The words of Prince Akamato seemed to finally make up Marodia's determination. A Marquis of Garcia has overwhelmed the giant demon empire for more than 20 years. Thinking of this, Marodo too took a deep breath and turned to Prince Murphy. The command said, Prince Murphy, then I am annoying you to see this Colin Angle. Yes, Majesty. Prince Abbas still wanted to persuade, but Morodo too had turned. Sanhui. This chapter is finished. The Original Vampire. Author, Logo Busroot. Chapter 205. Chapter 205. Giant Devil City. Chen 11 Slight light slowly transmitted from the east, tearing the darkness of the earth gently. The hazy light reflects the snow on the ground, flashing the cold light. Da-da. The crispy horseshoe quickly broke this quiet and beautiful picture. Countless black shadows appeared at the horizon, and kept approaching towards the Tiantuking city. But about 10 kilometers away from Wangcheng, the Black Army stopped. However, this substantial sense of oppression still made Wang Qinqing's head of the giant guards feel suffocating. Since the move of the capital, for the first time, the enemy has come to such a close distance from the belly of the giant demon empire. What's more, it is still the Black Club that makes countless giants be frightened. Not long after the Black Cavalry army arrived, the south city gate of the giant king city slowly opened. Moro II and Prince Mervi came out. Behind them, a team of wolf-riding guards were waiting in the city gate. Once an accident occurred, they rushed out of the gate and took their emperor back to the city. At the same time, two figures also came out of the Black Army. The two sides slowly approached. After walking out of a distance, Moro II recognized Colin, but the guards around Colin still frowned slightly. Mervi, the person around Colin, is it Charles St. Hilder? Prince Mervi narrowed his eyes for a while and nodded, Your Majesty, it should be. Immediately, the Triad Prince showed a bloodthirsty smile, I heard that this kid leaked our plan, hey, later he just slaughtered him. Mo Duo 2 shook his head slightly and whispered, No, Clorin can kill, but Charles, it is best to capture we can take him to talk to Duke St. Hilda. Yes, His Majesty Prince Mervi nodded, and then reminded, Your Majesty, after a while, you immediately run back, don't worry about it. Mo Duo nodded gently, but did not refute. The giant emperor was not known for his force, and his strength was only 3 tier. In fact, this is still a rare thing in the giant demon empire with strong people. But this is also a reason. Unlike the inheritance method of the glorious empire, the imperial inheritance of the giant demon empire is not actually the eldest son inheritance system. The successor of the giant devil is generally the strongest of the giant empress Falcon family. The strongest in the Falcon family in this generation is undoubtedly the northern prince of the Saints Otto Falcon. But this Prince Otto is a well-known martial arts, and has no interest in becoming the emperor of the empire. Moreover, when he refused the throne, Prince Otto also said a word that deeply affected the words of the throne of the giant demon empire. Now the empire needs is an emperor with political wisdom, not a samurai with a brute force. At that time, the giant demon empire had been overwhelmed by the Black Riding Army, and the last giant emperor was still cut off in the duel with the Duke of St. Hilda. The nobles start to reflect. Is it necessary for becoming a troll emperor? In this situation, the most powerful thing of Prince Ordo of the giant demon empire played a role in a decisive role. Therefore, the ownership of the imperial throne of the giant demon empire no longer considers military factors. Because of this, Mo Duo 2, who showed extremely high political talents at the time, stood out and boarded the throne. After the emperor was ascending the throne, he did diligent, pushing many reforms, and once rejected the giant demon empire. If it wasn't for the two brothers of St. Hild to play a play last year, resulting in the most elite 300,000 troops of the giant devil empire, the northern border must have to face a giant demon empire that gradually becomes stronger. Soon, the two sides met at the center of the Black Cavalry and the giant king city. His Majesty Morida II, His Royal Highness Mervi, please allow me to bring the Duke St. Hilda's kind greetings. Colin bowed slightly and gave a gift. The corner of Morido II was smoked. I don't know if it was a little objection to the kind greeting method of Colin, but in such an occasion, he still kept the relic. After a gift, he laughed. Angle Viscount, welcome to Wangcheng, please convey your greetings to Duke of St. Hilda for me. Later, he turned to Charles and greeted, Charles, I did not expect that you are so deep in your father to your father. Mo202 thought Charles was playing infernal affairs, and this was obviously ridiculing the betrayal of the other party. But in the face of the ridicule of Morodo2, Charles did not respond, and even the look on his face did not change, as if he had heard nothing. Colin smiled and took the words, Your Majesty, let's talk about the business. OK. Morodo2 did not have too much entanglement with Charles. He nodded when he heard the words. Colin looked at Mo2's eyes, and said with a smile, First of all, as a gratitude to you, I will give a gift first. What kind of gift? Modo2 asked curiously. Colin turned around and waved at the back. Subsequently, more than 100 giant captives were pushed out and walked towards Wangcheng. Your Majesty, these giant captives are the gifts I gave you. They are all professional in the South Army. Presumably you can't bear to let them be the dead soul of the Black Knife. Mo202 observed it carefully. Seeing those who came slowly, they were indeed a troll. Then I let go of my heart and asked, So, do you want to ransom? Colin shrugged and said generously, Since it is a gift, how can I have ransom? Then I would like to thank you for your generosity. Morodo2 finally showed a sincere smile, and then asked, I don't know how the rest of the troll captives. It's all killed, Colin said lightly. Prince Mervy's eyes stared at each other, and the murderous intention was almost impossible to hide. Morodo2 is also dripping blood in his heart, but on the surface, he still keeps calm. Continue, OK, Angle Viscount, I received your gift, let's talk about it. Colin nodded with a smile, OK His Majesty, this time I came to see you, but I actually want to discuss with you. Discussion. Yes, continue to fight, it is not good for both parties, so it is better to discuss it. Clinton paused, and said, Of course, the negotiation is still conditional. Say the tone of Morodo2 was cold. Colin seemed to have nothing to feel, and continued with carelessly, His Majesty, as long as you promise me the following conditions, I will immediately withdraw troops. First, you will apologize to the behavior of trying to invade the north. Second, in order to make up for the losses of the Angle family in this war, the giant empire must compensate 18 million gold coins, which can be delivered in 5 years. Third, the giant demon empire promises to never be enemy with the north and delay the withdrawal team. At most, it can only retain 30,000 regular army. Fourth, the giant demon empire will transport 200,000 young and strong slaves to the north. Fifth. When I heard the first condition of Colin, Morodo's face became irony. When the more outrageous conditions were spoken from the Collins, Morodo2 was quiet. It was just a sneer in the corner of his mouth, and seeing Colin's eyes seemed to be looking at a clown. When Colin finally finished all the conditions, Morodo2 smiled and said, Angle Viscount, we also have a condition for this peace talks. Oh, Your Majesty, please tell me. Our condition is Morodo2 turned to look at Prince Mervy, who had already been angry, you must die. Boom. As soon as the words fell, Prince Mervy rushed to Colin like a sharp arrow. This chapter is finished. The Original Vampire. Author, Ludo Busroot. Chapter 206. Chapter 206. Colin, come to life. Prince Mervy sang, like a thunderbolt. His huge and slightly bloated figure became extremely dexterous at this time, like a poisonous snake out of the hole, and shot lightningly in the direction of Colin. Facing Prince Mirway's sudden trouble, Colin seemed to have expected to retreat quickly. At the same time, 2,000 cavalry was immediately divided into the Black Riding Army in the rear, rushing out of the two wings, and wanted to cover Colin's return. The giants are also not slow, and a team of wolves in the gate rushed out quickly, ready to take over Morodo2. The moment Moruo II attacked by Prince Mervy, he immediately sprinkled his legs and ran towards the gate of the city. He did not worry about Prince Mervy. As a Fifth Order warrior, killing Colin and Charles should be little power. If you want to run, you can get away. At this time, Prince Mervy had bullying in front of Colin, with a smirk with a sloppy face, and his hands were like iron, grabbing Colin's head. But what made him unexpected was that Charles beside Colin suddenly stepped forward and blocked Colin's way. Prince Mervy was a little confused. If it is an ordinary guard, there is no problem if you give up his life to save the Colin. But how could Charles be an ordinary guard? This is the eldest son of the St. Hilda family. Even if he has been deprived of the jaw of the Marquis in the north, as long as he is still surnamed Saint Hild, as long as the blood of the Paladin family flows in his body, anyone dare not underestimate him. Even in a sense, in fact, Charles's life is more valuable than Colin's life. So before Moruo II, he warned Prince Mervy that he could kill Colin, but Charles must capture it. I was afraid to let Charles die here, completely irritating the Duke of the North of the Northern Realm of the Paladin. But now, Charles seemed to be a loyal knight in the Angra family, and he was afraid to welcome Prince Merle with a murderous blow. Prince Mervy counseled. With his strength, kill Charles, just like killing chickens. But he dare not. Whether it was the warning before Moruo II or the deterrent of the Duke of the Puta, Prince Mirweb did not dare to easily contaminate the blood of the members of the St. Hilda family. In desperation, Prince Mervy had to be temporarily changed. With two crisp sounds, Charles's arms were dislocated instantly. Prince Mervy threw Charles on the ground and continued. But as soon as he took a step, he felt a pain in his ankle. Looking back, he saw Charles biting his right foot like a crazy dog. Are you crazy? Prince Mervy couldn't understand why this Charles desperately for Colin. However, the madness in the eyes of the other party still made Prince Mervy's heart slightly cold. Forced the idea of the killer, Prince Mervy controlled his power and kicked in Charles's chest. Click. A series of fractures sounded one after another, and I didn't know how much the intact ribs were left in Charles. Prince Mervy broke away from Charles's entanglement, but saw that Colin had run away. Under the trample, the hard ice-frozen soil was also stepped on the deep pit. With the anti-shock power, Prince Mervy rushed to Colin like a giant elephant. In fact, in the first time Prince Mirway suddenly turned his face to Colin, in addition to the Black Cavalry and the Wolf Rider Guard in the King's City, there were also the Third Force rushing towards the place where the two sides met. They are captives who have just been regarded by Colin as a gift. I do know if it is a coincidence. When the Colin said and the conditions, the captives of these trolls just walked in the middle of the Black Army and the giant Devil City, and it was almost the place where Colin met with Moruo II. Just now Moruo II chose to make a sudden difficulty, because they saw that these troll captives were nearby. At that time, he secretly laughed at Collins and was so close that these captives were so close. Could it be that it was believed that the giant dare not dare to make him? At this time, the captives of the trolls immediately divided into two stars, one rushed towards Colin, and the other rushed to Moruo II. Seeing this, Moruo II thought that these troll captives came to respond to themselves, and immediately ordered, "Don't care about me, help Prince Mervy to stop Colin." However, these giant captives seemed to have not heard the order of Moruo II at all, and still rushed to him. Moruo II frowned, but when he saw half of the giant captives rush towards Colin, he didn't say anything, thinking that he rushed towards his group of troll captives. But the next second, Moruo II noticed that it was wrong. The group of trolls rushed to him aggressively, without any fear and respect on his face, instead carrying palpitated indifference. "What do you want to do?" Moruo II saw the captives who surrounded him, a little overwhelmed. However, the captives of the trolls ignored Moruo, but just surrounded him in the middle to prevent him from continuing to escape from the gate of the city. Moruo was panicked. seeing that the black army not far away was approaching step by step. Subsequently, Mo-Duo-2 saw a familiar face in the captive. Gigasty, what do you mean, what do you mean, I will have any punishment to you. However, Mo-Duo-2 seemed to be playing piano against Niu, and this group of troll captives ignored his words at all. On the other side, when Prince Murphy also saw the crowd rushing across, he excitedly said, "Quick, fast, help me stop Colin." However, those troll captives did not mean to stop Colin at all, but rushed to Prince Mirway. "Are you crazy?" Prince Murphy was also stunned. He didn't understand why these giants were helping humans. These troll captives are all professional in the South Army. Although the level is not high, after all, people are crowded, and Prince Murphy is in a hurry for a while. Looking at the siege Mo-Duo-2 and Prince Murphy, Colin also laughed and stopped running away. It didn't take long for the black club behind him to rush up. Colin began to accelerate forward. The Roger Cavaliers had been approaching, letting go in a timely manner, and Colin saw the opportunity to jump on the time. In the sound of the horse, the black army kept at all, bypassing Prince Murphy, entangled by the captives of the troll, rushing towards Marodo-2. The wolf riding guards rushed out of Wangcheng also rushed, but they were only 200. They seemed to be fragile in front of the 2,000 black rider arms riding. Moruo too has been in a deep desperation at this time. He couldn't figure out anyway. Why did his own people betray himself? Mo-Duo-2, come to life, Colin rushed over, and returned Prince Muravi 10 minutes ago. The Night Sword raised his head high, and under the shining of the morning light, it turned out to be a cowardly light. The heart of Marodo-2, almost stopped at this moment. When he was horrified, he shouted unwillingly. "Colin, Colin, I promise your conditions, I promise all your conditions." "Ha ha ha, it's late." Colin was dismissive of nonsense with the other party, and he passed by. Blade of Judgment in your hand, flashed with golden light, brought up the splattered blood. And a huge head. This chapter is finished. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Original Vampire. Author, Ludo Busroot. Chapter 207. Chapter 207. The Head of the Giant Devil City. When Prince Abbas saw that Marodo-2 was surrounded by a group of giant captives, he was realized. Although the wolf riding guard has already rushed out as soon as he was in trouble in Prince Mirway, if Marodo-2 was trapped in place, even if the wolf riding guard responded to him, he would definitely escape the Black Army entanglement. "We have to send troops immediately and return to the city." Prince Abbas came back and commanded the commander of the city defense army. But Prince Akamoto immediately said, "No, we have no cavalry in our hands. Even if they rush out of the city, they are too late to respond to His Majesty. Do you just watch Her Majesty and be beheaded by the Black Army? The Black Army may not dare to kill His Majesty," the king of Akamoto said without letting. "However, if Wang Cheng is caught, it is not only Your Majesty, but also you, me, monster nobles, and people in Wang Cheng, the dead soul under the saber." Prince Abbas was suffocating, and was speechless. Moreover, he also noticed that the words of Prince Akamoto made the surrounding trolls and nobles. Obviously, they don't want the Black Army to enter the city. At this moment of hesitation, the Black Army had killed Marodo-2. Although the wolf riding guard has arrived, they were too small to be scattered by the Black Army. Then, a group of giants and nobles in the head of the city saw their unforgettable scenes in their lives. Colin Angle's sword cut off the head of Marodo-2. All the giants who witnessed all of this were instantly lost, as if the voice between the heavens and the earth disappeared completely at this moment. It seemed like a weird and horrible nightmare, but couldn't wake up. Prince Akamoto clenched his fists, and his heart almost jumped out of his throat. When he saw the troll captives, he turned to the water, and finally understood why Colin had to meet with Maroto II in the city. This is simply a well-designed trap. Prince Akamoto also thought about the atonement of merit and proposed a plan to assassinate Colin, trying to use this to restore his status in Morodo II's heart. But he never expected that Colin was also an idea of assassination, and the weird means made him unable to understand at all. What did the Colin prosecute to the giants to make them dare to kill Her Majesty of the Emperor of the Giant Demon Empire? At this moment, the name Colin Angle even replaced the Marquis of Garcia, deeply imprinted in the heart of Prince Akamoto, and became a nightmare that he had no guts in this life. Prince Abbas looked at Colin with the head of Maroto II in one hand and waved demonstration towards the Divine King City. He turned his head sharply, glaring at Prince Akamoto, and roared, "Akamoto, didn't you say that the Black Army did not dare to kill His Majesty? You open your eyes wide and take a look, but your Majesty dies because of you." Prince Akamoto clenched his punch silently without talking. Looking at Prince Abbas, he almost wanted to penetrate his hole, and he calmed down by Prince Akamoto. Suddenly he realized that the death of Mo Duo II may be a good opportunity for him. "Uncle Abbas, you are right, so, in order to atone for sin, I am willing to go to the Black Riding Army and discuss His Majesty's body from Colin Angle." Hearing Prince Akamoto saying, Prince Abbas suddenly stunned. A giant nobleman whispered, "His Royal Highness Akamoto, when you go to the Black Riding Army at this time, don't be afraid that the Colin who is being killed will be." "That's even my sin," Prince Akamoto said in a row. Prince Abbas glanced at Prince Akamoto, and looked at the Black Army that was giving off outside the city, and nodded slowly. "Okay, then you will be the messenger. Remember, you not only need to redeem the remains of His Majesty and Prince Merlv, but also ask the conditions of the Black Army to withdraw troops." "Yes, Uncle Abbas, I won't let you disappointed." Prince Akamoto Dynasty Prince Abbas gave a gift, and then went to the tower and walked alone outside the city. For a while, Prince Akamoto's loneliness that slowly walked towards the boiling Black Army position, which was quite windy and easy to get water. At this time, Colin was immersed in an enthusiastic emotion. The cheers of the black clubs around him made him like the cloud. The bloody skull in his hand was more like a medal symbolizing the supreme glory. Make him inevitably fluttering. Of course, he has not completely lost his mind. Therefore, when some of the heads of the head want to invite the city of the Daja King, Colin decisively refused. There is still a 50,000 elite army defense in the city of the trolls. Moreover, the narrow terrain in the city is not conducive to the cavalry play. In this way, the trade rashly kills. I am afraid that it is more fierce. This time, the 100,000 troops that had been over the south of the trolls, and killed the demon emperor. Such achievements have been extremely eye-catching. It is better to accept it if you see it well. When Khalil was about to order the troops, he saw a lonely figure out of the city of the Dahar. "Master Viscount, it seems to be Prince Akamoto." "Well, let him come over." "Yes." It didn't take long for Prince Akamoto to come to Colin. Colin knew that the southern prince of the giant demon empire was not high, so he waved his hand to signal his temporary retreat. Prince Akamoto came to Colin's and paid respectfully. "Oh." Mo Duo's head was thrown away by Colin, and gurgling rolled to Prince Akamoto's feet. Just right, those dead eyes stared at Prince Akamoto. At the same time, Khalil's teasing voice came from Akamoto, "The position of the emperor of this giant empire, let you sit, how about it?" Prince Akamoto Huoran looked up, and the fire of ambitions in his eyes did not cover up at all, but when he spoke, he said another thing. "Master Viscount, you look at me too high. I can't be eligible to inherit the throne of this giant empire." "Why?" Khalil frowned, "aren't you surnamed Fulkin?" Prince Akamoto smiled miserable. "Master Viscoin, don't forget, but I have just buried the 100,000 troops. Moreover, I do anti-hide it I proposed. But now, it looks like this. The death of Maroto II, I have an unswerving responsibility. Therefore, in any case, it is impossible for the monster nobles in Wangcheng to agree to make me the next emperor of the empire. Khalil raised his eyebrows, seeing something. And Prince Akamoto said again, Master Viscount, although I can't inherit the throne, but I have a more suitable heirs, he may make you more satisfied. Oh, who? Prince Abbas. This chapter is finished. The Original Vampire. Author, Ludo Busroot. Chapter 208. Chapter 208. Prince Abbas. Colin frowned in doubt, apparently not familiar with the troll prince. Yes, Prince Akamoto saw Colin's doubts, and immediately explained, he is the David Empire Prince Oriental Prince, and a member of the Voljan family. He is eligible to inherit the throne. Moreover, among the 4 princes of the empire, I am out of the situation. The prince of the northern Prince Orths, in pursuing the samurai, has long said that he is not interested in the throne. Become a candidate for the next giant devil emperor. Kalinma was holding his chin, and he couldn't see his anger on his face. He keenly noticed that Akamoto just said only the 3 princes, but leaked Prince Mervi alone. The Prince Mervi followed Marad II out of the city and tried to assassinate Colin. Fortunately, there was Charles beside Colin as a shield and a crowd of troll captives who were transformed into blood slaves. However, the Prince Mervi was really sturdy. Nearly 100 troll captives were almost killed by him. You know, these captives are all professional players picked out from the 100,000 troops. Even in this way, if the Black Army arrived in time, I am afraid that it would not be enough to kill by Prince Muravi. Unfortunately, the sturdy prince has now been shot into a hedgehog. Just now Colin heard that he still had a breath. The vitality of the 5th Order warrior was really tenacious. But obviously, Akamoto hoped that Colin would help him eliminate this candidate. Colin did not explicitly express his statement, but asked, then why do you say, Prince Abbas is a heir who can make me more satisfied? Because he is a firm peace talks, advocating to get along with the northern border, mutual benefit, rather than engaged in military confrontation as it is now. Seeing Colin seemed to be a little unbelievable, Prince Akamoto added again, Master Viscount, this Prince Abbas has a total of 3 lovers, all of them are humans, and they also gave birth to a bunch of illegitimate children. However, he had nothing to do with his princess, and his relationship was extremely cold. Colin laughed in his heart. The Prince Abbas was a human control. So, after he came to power, he did improve the relationship between the giant demon empire and the north. Then how can I ensure that this Prince Abbas is successfully boarded the throne? Prince Akamoto's eyes flashed, and said with a vulnerable, Master Viscount, now Prince Abbas is already the most likely to appear in the throne in the King's City. Really, Colin heard the meaning of Prince Akamoto. The so-called the most likely to appear on the throne in the King's City, that is, outside the King's City, there is also a more suitable candidate than Prince Abbas. Obviously, the more suitable throne candidate is the Prince Mervi who has been neglected by Prince Akamoto. It seems that among the giant demon senior management, the power of hostile to the north is still better than the forces that are close to the northern border. Okay, I will guarantee that there will be no more suitable throne candidates in Wangcheng. Thank you, the Viscount. Prince Akamoto gave a gift again, and then said, Master Viscount, I am out of the city to see you, and also bear the mission of negotiation. Discuss peace, okay, I have long wanted to discuss peace, but the conditions of the peacekeeper Maroto II did not agree, otherwise, things will not develop to this point. I don't know what conditions you have. Colin talked about the negotiations and conditions he had previously talked to Mo Duo II. Prince Akamoto's mouth twitched, and he secretly said no wonder that Maroto II had to kill you. Such a negotiation and condition had no sincerity at all. Master Viscount, if I go back with this agreement, I am afraid I will be torn by the anger giants and nobles. Colin smiled and understood that his previous conditions were indeed too harsh. However, that condition was originally a strategy to stimulate Mordo II to allow the other party to do it first, and throwing the bias of the destruction of the talks to the trolls. Colin also knew that the other party could not agree. Well, then you talk about what kind of discussion conditions are willing to accept. Next, the two had a fierce bargain and finally reached an agreement. There are four main contents of the modified peace talk agreement. First, the giant demon empire promised to maintain the current preparation of 50,000 regular army and no longer continue to expand. Second, compensate the war loss of the Angle family's 5 million gold coins. Third, deliver 100,000 youthful giant slaves to the Angle family, which is delivered in 5 years. Fourth, all the caravans with customs clearance documents issued by Benjian City will enjoy preferential policies for tariff reduction and exemption in the giant demon empire. Of course, as a exchange, Clearing will return the body of Mordo II and lead the Black Cavalry to withdraw from the giant demon empire. This kind of interview agreement is of course a huge humiliation for the giant demon empire. But at this time, they have no choice. Although the Black Riding Army cannot attack the giant devil city, such a cavalry army will bring unbearable losses to the trolls if it raids in the territory of the giant empire. However, when Prince Akamoto brought such a peace talk agreement back to the city of the giant devil, it still caused the anger of the giants and nobles. In the courts departments, the monster nobles quarreled into a ball, cursing Colin's greed, and at the same time accused Akamoto's weakness. Faced with accusations, Prince Akamoto said expressionlessly, "Everyone, if you know how outrageous the discussion conditions of Colin's initially proposed by His Majesty Mordo II, you can understand that I can talk about this agreement. It is really true, I have done my best." Having said that, he told the initial peace talk agreement. At this moment, the accusations were a lot smaller. Later, Akamoto said to Prince Abbas and said, "Uncle Abbas, you are now the most virtuous one among the King's city. I wonder what do you have about this agreement?" Prince Abbas was very satisfied with Akamoto's respect, but still shook his head slightly. "Akamoto, I know that you have done your best, but this condition is a shame for the giant demon empire, especially the first condition to limit the expansion of the army. If it is promised, wouldn't the empire lose hope of rising forever?" "Uncle, I really can't make Angle Viscounts make a bigger concession. However, if you go to talk to him, there may be hope." "Oh, why?" "Because Angrayer thought you are the candidate who is most hopeful to inherit the throne. Now if you talk to him in person, maybe he will sell you a little face." Prince Abbas heard that it was a little fluttering and could be recognized by the enemy. How could it be considered a glory? But he did not dare to see Colin himself. What if he was slaughtered by the other party? Prince Abbas now felt that he was one step away from the throne of the giant devil, but he did not want to take risks at this critical moment. "Ahem, so, I will send me a messenger, on behalf of me to meet the Viscount Angle, and win a decent interview agreement for the Demon Empire." The monster nobles heard the words, and immediately praised. Prince Abbas accepted praise with a red face, as if he had already appeared in the throne. This chapter is finished. The Original Vampire. Author, Lugo Busroot. Chapter 209. Chapter 209. Giant Palace. The night is quiet, and the air is floating in the air, which is the flower fragrance of the bluebell flower. This flower is one of the few flowers that can grow under the extreme climatic conditions of the sky ice. It is like a vast blue ocean when blooming. Therefore, it has also become the national flower of the giant demon empire. Prince Akamoto stood in front of the window and looked at the faint lighting outside, and wondered what was thinking. The floral fragrance of the bluebell flowers kept drilling into his nose, making his anxious mind gradually calm. "His Royal Highness, don't you go to bed yet?" The Princess Nara appeared behind him and asked softly. "You go to sleep first," Prince Akamoto smiled back. Okay, Nala nodded obediently and retreated quietly. The giant princess from the Sanhilder family was cautious in this foreign country. Fortunately, Prince Akamoto was pretty good to her. The only thing that Nara not to know that should be happy or worried is that Prince Akamoto never touched her. To be honest, of course, Nara can't accept the appearance of the trolls, but if she can't give birth to Prince Akamoto, she feels that she has not rely on this cold palace. When he heard the black cavalry hit the king's city, even when he killed Mo202, Nalalialogo said that it was impossible to be excited, but at the same time, she also felt a deep fear. Will the trolls not vent their anger? In these words, she did not dare to talk to Prince Akamoto, because she understood that although the young southern prince respected her on the surface, this respect was more respected. The princess's troubles, of course, Prince Akamoto didn't know, but even if he knew, I wouldn't care. At this point, he had his own troubles. Prince Akamoto stared at the darkness in front of him, and his deep eyes seemed to have to penetrate this black screen and find the figure he was waiting hard. His Royal Highness Akamoto, good at night. Finally, an old voice sounded behind Prince Akamoto. Suddenly, the spirit of Prince Akamoto was shining, and his eyes brightened. Lord Sikan, good evening. A giant wearing a black witch robe was standing behind Prince Akamoto. He was shrouded in a green mist. The age should be very old. Seeing this Squian witch doctor, Prince Akamoto's attitude became extremely respectful. Because this is the leader of the Demon Empire God Church, the White Wolf Witch King. The status of the witch doctor in the giant demon empire is similar to the status of the pastor in the glorious empire. They do not have much combat effectiveness, but they firmly control the beliefs of the thousands of children of the giant devil empire. Professional inheritance. Although the White Wolf King lived deeply, he never participated in the politics of the giant demon empire, and even invaded foreign enemies, and he did not see him showing up. However, if he really shows up, it will definitely have a great impact on the political situation of the giant demon empire. What's more, the coronation ceremony of the giant devil was also hosted by the White Wolf Witch King Sikan. I heard that Maroto too has died in the hands of the Black Army. Sikan's voice was very low, but it was clearly introduced into Prince Akamoto's ear, and even with a deterrent effect. Yes, His Majesty was unfortunately beheaded by Colin Angle. Prince Akamoto answered honestly. Well, Sikan nodded, and his tone was not much ups and downs, as if he didn't care about it. Then you think, who is more suitable for inheriting the throne? Faced with such a straightforward question of the White Wolf Witch King, Prince Akamoto was slightly uncomfortable, but soon adjusted his mentality and said respectfully. I think, Prince Abbas is more suitable to become the next emperor of the empire. Squian didn't speak, and his cold eyes patrolled on Prince Akamoto's face, as if looking at something. The long silence made Prince Akamoto began to make a hair in his heart. He even felt that the eyes of the White Wolf Witch King were substantial, as if a poisonous snake was shuttled back and forth on himself. Finally, Squian retracted his gaze and said faintly, do you know the political tendency of Prince Abbas? Do you really think you should make a weak prince who advocates human culture inherit the throne of the empire? Prince Akamoto's complexion unchanged, responded, adult, I think, now in this situation, it may be the best choice to reinstate settlement with the north. What's more, the northern border is now in the wardrobe. It is still unknown whether the status of the St. Hilda family can hold the lord of this northern border. At this time, we should temporarily avoid its edge and rest. Squian was silent for a while, and then asked, is Prince Abbas who is responsible for peace with the Black Army? Yes, and His Royal Highness Abbas has made a certain progress, and the Black Cavalry has made some concessions again. Really, it seems that Colin Angle is very face to Prince Abbas. Squian couldn't hear his anger in his tone. Of course, the Black Army is now anxious to go back to deal with the chaos in the north, and does not want to consume empty here, and Prince Abbas's political position has also helps to reach a peace talk agreement quickly. I hope to see Prince Abbas can reach the throne. Huh, when did the throne of the giant demon empire be considered? The opinions of the north borders, Squien said coldly, and then didn't wait for Prince Akamoto to speak, and asked a seemingly irrelevant question. Prince Akamoto, do you have no children yet? Not yet. That's right, the son of Maroto too is still young. You can't lack education, you might as well collect it as a adopter son, so teach it well. Prince Akamoto seemed to realize something, and his heart suddenly jumped a few beats, and quickly said, okay, I will try to become a qualified father. Squien nodded with satisfaction, and then said inadvertently, I hope you can not only be a good father, but also a good emperor. What? Prince Akamoto looked up in surprise. Yes, I will recommend you to inherit the throne. The smoke around Sikin quietly dissipated, showing a wrinkled face. The deep eyes are full of encouragement of Prince Akamoto. But, I have just buried the 100,000 troops after all, and His Majesty Morodo too died outside the city. These failure responsibilities should not be borne by you alone, not to mention, I can accept an emperor who has stumbled, but you must not tolerate a humble emperor. Squien's eyes became sharp instantly. If it really allows Prince Abbas to inherit the throne, it may not take long for the giants to become the affiliated country of the glorious empire, and even the noble blood of the Vol'jin family, they will be defiled by human blood. Prince Akamoto lowered his head, as if he couldn't bear Sikin's eyes. He said solemnly in his mouth, Adult, I understand what you mean. Please rest assured, that human princess, I will never touch it. Squien nodded with relief, and comforted again, you don't have to worry about the failure of the previous failure. I will help you to persuade you one by one. The demon empire can endure temporary failures, but never break the backbone. Prince Akamoto trembled, and he straightened his waist, shot directly with the sharp eyes of the White Wolf Witch King, and said with a loud saying, Yes, I will keep your teachings forever. This chapter is finished. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Original Vampire. Author, Logo Busroot. Chapter 210. Chapter 21. Outside the Tiantuking city, the Black Riding military camp. In the camp, Colin was turning around Prince Muravi's huge body. He still squeezed from time to time and patted it. He seemed to feel the muscles that were full of explosive power. After all, this is the first fifth-order slave transformed in Colin, as if a child got a novel toy, and he couldn't help but explore. Moreover, the Prince Muravi left a very impressive impression on Colin in his previous battle. The blood slave transformed by nearly 100 giant devils was killed by the fifth-order samurai. You must know that if you want to kill the blood slaves, Colin only knows one way, that is to cut off the skull. The rest of the damage will not be fatal. This also led to the time when facing the same order opponent, blood slaves who are not afraid of death and have no fatal weaknesses always occupy an absolute advantage. In particular, it can be seen that the combat effectiveness of Prince Muravi is powerful. However, although it lost a large number of giants and blood slaves, Colin was very satisfied with being able to get high-level thugs such as Prince Muravi. Colin probably estimated that even after he entered a transformation state, he was probably not the opponent of Prince Mirway. However, because of the help of the Batwing, Colin occupies an absolute maneuverability. If he wants to run, Prince Murvi can't keep him. So far, the number of members of Blood Shadow has increased to 108. Well, it is just 108 generals. The harvest of this time in the Giant Empire includes a 5th order, a 4th order, 5 3rd order, and the 14 first and second tier professionals. Colin put on a ghost mask for these giant blood slaves, and covered the skin with heavy body armor to prevent people from recognizing their identity and race. Just when Colin touched his chin and appreciated the heroic posture of the new member who had just joined the Blood Shadow, the sound of the attendant from the attendant came from outside the camp. Master Viscount, the giant messenger seeks to see. Let him come in. Yes. Soon, a giant messenger walked into the camp. While he bowed towards Colin, he secretly looked at the blood slaves standing in the account with Yu Guang. Because of the armor of the whole body, of course, the giant messenger could not recognize the identity of these blood slaves, but just sighed. The guardian guard of Angler's Vorse is really prestigious. Huh. Why does the front figure seem to be a bit familiar? When the giant messenger was in the gods, Colin asked faintly, is it that Prince Abbas sent you again? Does he have opinions on the peace talk agreement? The messenger quickly took back the attention of the inquiry and replied, Master Viscount, not Prince Abbas sent me. Who is that? I am the new Emperor Akamoto, the new Emperor of the giant demon empire. Come here. Wait, Colin quickly interrupted the messenger, and asked some unbelievable face, who do you say the new Emperor? It's His Majesty Akamoto. Colin blinked and confirmed that he heard it right. The new emperor of the giant empire was not Abbas, but Akamoto. Suddenly, he laughed. Because Colin finally realized that he was played by this guy Akamoto. However, he didn't care too much. After all, he was ready to let Akamoto inherit the throne, but he was rejected by Akamoto himself. It turned out that this guy had an idea, and used Colin to let Colin help him solve Prince Murphy, but also combine the prestige of Prince Abbas through peace talks. It was said that I didn't want to inherit the throne, but in fact, I was planning to be secretly planned to retreat and laugh to the end. He Colin sneered twice. This Akamoto was vulnerable on the battlefield, but in the political struggle, there was a somewhat trend of fish. Interesting. Your emperor sent you to see me, what's the matter? Master Viscount, your majesty wants to see you, just like last time, 5 kilometers outside the king city, but you can't bring any guards. Oh, okay, as long as your emperor is not worried that I will unscrew his head, then see it, Colin responded casually. Akamoto's military value has not been taken by him, and even if something happened, no one could keep it if he wanted to escape. Just take a look at what this giant new emperor wants to say alone. Yes, Master Viscount, the time is set at noon tomorrow, what do you think? Ken. Nympho. The second day, noon. The gentle warm sun shines on the world wrapped in silver, and the Wangcheng city wall, which is made of huge and strong ice, reflects the gorgeous glory. In the dull rumbling sound, the south city gate slowly opened. Akamoto came out alone. On the side of the Black Army, Colin also walked towards Wangcheng alone. It didn't take long for the two to meet halfway. I haven't seen it for a few days, and it's about to change my mouth. You really gave me a surprise, His Majesty Akamoto. Viscount, this time is indeed my fault, but I also have some unspeakable pains, I hope you can understand it. Looking at Akamoto, which was very low, Colin's inner vigilance did not diminish at all, but increased a lot. From the first meeting, Colin knew that this Akamoto was an extremely tolerable guy. At the beginning, when Akamoto went to the Winter City of Winter City, Colin also secretly compared the other party as a different world. Now, he feels more and more accurate. Your Majesty, you are so polite. For you to be able to reach the throne, I will express my heartfelt congratulations here. I also hope that the two parties will get more friendly and less hostile in the future. Thanks to the congratulations to the Viscounts, Akamoto nodded with a smile. I also always think that the Demon Empire should get along friendly, rather than continue to confront. Therefore, the discussed agreement you previously proposed, I am ready to accept it, hoping that this goodwill can make up for some of the previous misunderstandings. Very good, I believe this agreement is a brand new beginning. Colin was also very satisfied with Akamoto's refreshing, and then took out the prepared sheepskin rolls, signed the word on it, and then handed it to Akamoto. Akamoto also signed it on it. The peace talk agreement was officially reached. Colin took the agreement and said with a smile, I will withdraw the troops tomorrow. I hope you will meet next time, and it will not be on the battlefield. I hope so, I said seriously. He was really scared by Colin, and even the horror scene of the Black Army charge has become his lingering nightmare. Several night dreams have been scared to scare him with cold sweat. Colin shook hands with Akamoto with a smile. In fact, when I saw His Majesty for the first time, I felt that we would be friends. Really, Akamoto was surprised. It is my honor to be your friend of Angle. Colin haha laughed. May friendship last. Friendship forever. After the two shook hands, they hugged each other, as if for many years old friends to say goodbye. But after turning around, it showed almost at the same time. Obviously, this friendship lasted only a few seconds. Today is the birthday of Radish. This chapter is finished. The Original Vampire. Author, Lugo Busroot. Chapter 211. Chapter 211. Having rushed the tale in April, Colin led the army back to Bingian City. At this time, the spring meaning of the north is already full of greenness, and the obscure green can be seen everywhere. The lush grass swayed in the wind, stretching his proud figure comfortably in the breeze of spring, and the layers of green wool completely shrouded the earth. What makes Colin feel more happy is the wheat field that has been farmed. Although there is a pot of porridge in other parts of the north, the human brain is about to hit the dog's mind, but the territory of the Angra family is calm, the existence of the 30,000 silver monthly guards, the sufficient food reserves, and the geographical location away from the storm center. All that made warfare unable to spread to this territory easily. Occasionally, some sporadic slave rebellions were quickly suppressed and the chaos in the outside was quickly suppressed. This year's spring plowing was not greatly affected. The messenger has already passed the news of victory back to Bingian City in advance. Therefore, when the Colin arrived, a large number of people who came to greet them were gathered outside the city. The military band played the triumph in a timely manner. Colin came out of the horse, and when he saw that there was a figure in the crowd, he rushed to him quickly. That was Vera. The girl was wearing a white army dress today, wearing the golden lion badge of the St. Hilda family on her chest, and her golden hair tied into a horsetail. As the hippocampus bumps, she shook her head. Colin, welcome home. When he came near, Vera slowed down and gasped slightly to show a beautiful smile to Collins. Colin drove Malaysia to Villa, reached out and held the girl's slender waist, hugged her in front of herself, and rode a horse with him. Vera did not stop Colin's movement, but just blushed and shy. Last time we rode a horse, it was a year ago. Colin got into Vera's ear, sniffing the fragrance of the girl, and whispered. Vera felt the damp and humid atmosphere in his ears. Yeah, the time passed so fast. At the beginning, the son of the unknown baron had now become a great hero who covered 100,000 trunches, and the sword blade giant emperor. Colin laughed, and then shook his head and said, what can the great hero, Duke St. Hilda still does not want to marry you? Vera heard that her eyes were dark. Until then, the Colin sent relatives to the Winter City of the Winter City still did not get the Duke. Colin really can't understand. At this time, the Duke is still confident that he can calm the rebellion in the north alone with the Golden Lion Legion. Do you not need Colin's help at all? Isn't he worrying that the Colin would fall to the rebel side at all? With the strength of Colin's now, it has long been a military force that cannot be ignored in the north. But the Duke of St. Hilda seemed to be disappeared, and he didn't know what was going on. However, Colin is not in a hurry. The main goal of the Shenglin family is definitely not the Angle family, so after getting the trolls, Colin did not believe that the other party could come to him again. At this time, of course, it is the best time to watch tiger fighting. Skill the chips in your hand. The ethnic language of the Miadwen family is very suitable for the current state of Colin. He doesn't have to rush to bed. During the thoughts, Khalil had entered Bingian City under the cluster of everyone. The streets were crowded with people who came to welcome, and they cheered the names of Colin loudly, creating a tall sound. Colin waved with a smile, and he couldn't help raising a sense of pride. This time the giant demon empire and his party made Colin win a high reputation. It can even be said that as his record further spread and fermented, the prestige of Colin in the north may be increased to second only to the Duke of St. Hilda. The point. This is not a delusion. Although Colin's raid this time is actually the cheapness of the emptiness of the giant demon empire, it is necessary to discuss the blow to the strength of the giant demon empire. Unclear ways inside. They don't know how much water among the 100,000 trunches wiped out of Khalil was wiped out. How big the combat effectiveness was with the elite army led by Prince Gambred. In their opinion, although the number of big devils wiped out in the Colin was not as good as Marquis in Garcia, after all, he cut off the head of a giant demon emperor and forced the giant devil empire to sign a discussion agreement for the humiliation of the nation. Such achievements can no longer be said to be inferior to the Marquis of Garcia. What's more, the campaign of Shadow Canyon has caused Marquis in Garcia to fall from the altar. Under this disappearance, Colin has faintly replaced the Marquis of Garcia, becoming the first general in the north. The beauty is in the arms, the army is behind, and the enthusiastic people are welcomed by the road around them. The ears are full of sincere and eager praise. Such a scene must be the things that every man wants. Under the warm wind of spring, Colin could not help but flutter. After returning to the Red Fort, after washing and rest, Colin began a big feast hero. The banquet hall of the Red Fort today shows the most beautiful side, so as to celebrate the celebration of the soldiers returning from this victory. The housekeeper Iman stood at the door of the hall with a proud look at the guests who came. The attendants of the Angle family are also shaking today. The achievements made by the lords make them feel honored, and the waist rods are quite straightforward than usual. Because the banquets were all officers of the expedition to the giant demon empire, many people were not from the aristocracy, so the etiquette was relatively casual and there were not too many restraints. And because of the return from the battlefield, these officers still seemed to be scattered with a strong bloody smell, and their eyes were still murderous, so that the entire banquet hall had some atmosphere of Jinji iron horses. Everyone had no scruples in the laughter, and the voice quickly pressed the band's performance. This is an internal celebration banquet. Colin did not have a wide invitation, so there were no guests sent by other families. The only outsider was a dwarf messenger who had arrived in Binjian City a month ago. The dwarf messenger waited for Colin for so long in Binjian City, and had accumulated a resentment for a long time. At this time, seeing these officers who did not have much relationship with elegance and nobleness at this time, they couldn't help but rose a contempt. In his opinion, after all, the Angle family rose shortly after all, with insufficient heritage, and a brutal atmosphere in his bones. At this moment, Colin and Vera appeared at the door of the hall. Colin changed into the viscoate dress, with a roaring white bear's badge on his chest, with a trial blade on his waist. At this time, he had a great victory. The next Waylaw was wearing a blue off-back dress. The dazzling golden hair was fixed by the thorns headwear and sprinkled from the top of the head. The background is even more shining. The height of 1.7 m and the silver fine heels on the foot not only looked upright and slender, but also highlighted her golden ratio. When the two walked into the banquet hall, the noisy voice quietly calmed down. A group of officers were almost neatly rectified without the command of no one, which made the dwarf messenger highlighted, and it was extremely embarrassing. However, he also put away a little bit of contempt, and had some understanding of Colin's lofty prestige in the army. Of course, Colin also saw the dwarf messenger, but he ignored the other party, but just smiled back to the officers, and then announced that the banquet officially started. This chapter is finished.